right. What's up, brah?
Surf's up.
Surf's up. All right, I'm Cece Ciccone,
And I'm Kelsey Woolman.
and this is Go Big or Go Decom.
Yes, and today we are tackling the classic Johnny Tsunami, premiered in 1999.
Okay, but here's the weird thing, is that on Disney Plus, it's widescreen. Did you?
I thought the same. That's my first note. It's widescreen, but
It's my first
Cadet
note too.
Kelly was full screen, which is the square. So they
Right.
must
So
have
why did
oriented
they
it.
decide to change Johnny Tsunami and not Cadet Kelly?
Right. And they
Because I
haven't
think
gotten
Cadet
around.
Kelly is like a bigger deal, right?
I
Like,
would
well,
love to see their streaming numbers. Like, give me access to your numbers, Disney Plus. But like,
well, that
which
would be
one gets
awesome.
streamed more? I'm sure their most streamed decom of all time has to be High School Musical.
Oh,
It's
it
just
has to be.
it's the
And
decom to end all decoms. It has to be High School Musical. But
I gotta
I
be
would
honest,
love
I
to see
think Camp
between
Rock
these
is
two.
pretty. I've streamed Camp Rock recently.
I have not, but I definitely watched it when it came out. I had a party at my house for the Camp Rock 2 premiere. So
We were kind of old for that.
I was like, yeah, we were like in high school. Yeah.
I love it.
A lot of people came.
I was gonna say because Camp Rock was more like my sister Sophia is 8 years younger than me, and
Yes.
she was like super into
I had
Camp
a
Rock.
friend in high school who was just a really, really big Demi Lovato fan. And so we threw it like kind of as a joke. We are like, let's throw a party for the
Well,
Camp
and the
Rock 2
Jonas
premiere.
Brothers
Because yeah,
were in
people
it.
like the Jonas was
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
So
but we're not
yes.
talking about Camp Rock
No,
today.
sorry. We are talking about Johnny Tsunami. So yes, it is widescreen. Um, came out in 1999. Our first scene as we open, we're in Hawaii. Johnny Tsunami is actually the grandfather. So our namesake is not our main character. His name is, they're both legally named Johnny Capahala. The
Right.
grandfather's nickname is Johnny Tsunami. We learned that is because there was a plane crash beyond the reef. They live on the north shore of Oahu, and Johnny Tsunami paddled out on his board, saved all three people from the plane crash by himself.
And he kind of becomes a legend.
Scene. Yes, a living legend. He gets the name legend. Johnny Tsunami. He gets a surfing medal that they give to the greatest surfer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he still has it.
And in case listeners forgot or don't know, Kelsey actually lives in Hawaii, but not on Oahu.
No, I do live on Oahu.
You do live on Oahu?
Yeah.
Is that the Big
Oahu?
Island?
No, the Big Island is the Big Island.
Hawaii.
Hawaii, yeah. So everyone calls it the Big Island. It's the island of Hawaii.
But Honolulu's on Oahu.
Oahu, yep.
Okay, so now that we cleared that up, Kelsey is basically Johnny Capahala.
No, I'm not. I've never surfed.
Never surfed.
My family is also not from Hawaii, so I'm not Johnny Capahala. Johnny Capahala, our first main character of color.
Oh, interesting.
That's an important
color of friendship was after, or
I didn't mean chronologically. I meant that we've covered in.
Yeah, that we've covered.
I don't know.
And you know that's something that's going to be very important for us, you know, as we're kind of walking through these, because I made a note. Spoiler. Well, we'll get there. But there's several kind of like decom tropes that are really, really big in this film in particular. And I think like the first one that comes up that struck me was like the absentee workaholic dad.
Father. Yeah, the parenting is and it's covered in this. I think it did a really good job in a way that Teen Beach Movie did not cover any adult conflicts.
They do have an arc, a character arc, some development, which I think is really important, because if you think about like as kids, that moment when you realize that like your parents aren't perfect is like can like your world can just like come crashing down.
And that like your parents were kids, because he is dealing with his relationship with his father, his relationship with his grandfather, and his father's relationship with his grandfather. So to think of it not just as like everyone surrounding me, but also everyone has their own interpersonal relationships is
absolutely
a big thing for a kid.
Yeah, and you know, I think this idea that like and it is, we saw it in Teen Beach Movie too, where a teenage movie as well.
Also, right?
Also,
Because there is a
there
teenage
is,
movie too.
that's right. Where like the grandparent, it kind of is like this source of refuge, and
Mhm.
like where the kid feels understood by a grandparent in a way that he doesn't feel understood by his parents. And I think that's very interesting. But um coming back to like the beginning of this movie, right away his dad, like, I don't know, like is critical of his own father, Johnny's
Yes.
grandfather, for not making money. Just
We're
like
not making money.
straight
Though
up,
he
it's
has
like,
a
you can't be a surfer, like you're not gonna make money.
Grandpa has a gorgeous house on the North Shore of Oahu, and
And he goes surfing every day. Like, I think Grandpa's doing okay.
yeah. But there is,
Um,
so from Grandpa's house we go directly to an amateur surf competition,
right.
where Johnny Kapahala, so we should just call him Johnny, and I guess call Grandpa
Yeah, that
for
works.
understanding's sake.
Yeah.
Johnny just rips it, and he goes Richter, and he does incredibly well, enough that we learn later there's a write-up about him in a surf magazine.
Yeah, someone
So
had read about them. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
so he does great, and yes, mom comes to the competition, grandpa comes to the competition,
Mhm.
and we go home, and dad is just clicking away on
Behind
that
the
old
computer.
keyboard, the keyboard that is randomly in the middle of the living room. Did you notice where his desk was? Just like the center
Yeah,
of the living room.
absolutely.
Why?
It's an open concept.
And dad's like, I had to stay here and write some code, just like
Right,
they
while
were
you
like,
were
it's
off just surfing your life
right.
away.
They're like, it's the 90s. What's the opposite of a surfer? It's a computer guy, and he writes code on his white Macintosh.
Yeah, not Silicon Valley startup
Yeah,
bros.
and Johnny tries to connect. Johnny's like, what are you working on? That school project? I don't understand the school software at all, for the record.
I don't
I don't
either,
understand.
but in comes another trope, which is the evil private school.
Yes, we learn. Well, his dad, the first thing he searches is like, how much money does professional surfers make? And we learn not a lot. And then that's where the money aspect comes in.
Yeah.
Then Johnny goes up to his room. Mom comes in. And again, mom is like, you really need to tell him. We need to just tell our children that we're moving.
What is okay? So right. So we have the moving, which plays a major role in a lot of decons, is what we're learning. Because this is, we've done 3 episodes. This is the 3rd one
with a
we're
move
moving
involved in some aspect,
which is nuts.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. High School Musical has it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'll be surprised when no one moves.
But yes, the private school versus public school again is huge. These private school kids are the worst.
But they're awful. Leaving in a week. And they haven't told him.
And how do you not, like, were they not packing anything? They haven't even gone through their possessions at all. I have no idea.
Absolutely ridiculous. So
and he takes it so well.
He really does. He's just like,
because
and just like Cadet Kelly, he's just like, okay.
The next morning, they do tell him that they're leaving, and he's like, I just want to go surf with my friends. He tells his friends on the beach. Again, he takes it super well. He talks with his grandpa on the beach that night.
I'm so glad he has his grandpa.
His grandpa is such a great grandpa. And might I say, he's looking good.
He does look good. And interestingly, I don't know if you picked this up, and obviously they're not biologically related, but Johnny does not look like his dad.
Not at all.
But he does look like his grandpa.
Yes.
Which I think is like super cute.
So. I think, yeah, that is cute. So grandpa was born, the actor who plays grandpa was born in 1950. So at the time of shooting this was not even 50 years old, it was like 48. And the actor who plays dad was born in 1959. So like late 50s.
They're 9 years apart.
They're 9 years apart.
That's so funny.
And so
they move.
The next day they move. That's it. They're like, he has a talk with his grandpa. Grandpa's really positive about it. Again, grandpa's like, try to look on the good side of everything. We move. He forgot to pack a coat in his like bag for the actual move, so he shows up. Just
do people in Hawaii even have coats?
I mean, I would guess no. If you've lived here your whole life, probably not. His
no
mom must have has to buy him a coat.
So yeah, so they move. Johnny goes the first day of school, private school. For some reason, he does not have a uniform.
I was so confused because no one said anything to him. He's wearing like a long sleeve tee. It's very late 90s. He's wearing a long sleeve tee with like 2 stripes across it, a unbuttoned Hawaiian shirt over that, because you have to layer it to show that you are a cool person.
Obviously.
In the late 90s, early 2000s. And he's walking around school and no one is saying anything like, where is your uniform? So I was like, is everyone else just choosing to dress like this? We learned later that his uniform just hadn't shown up yet, but they could have said something earlier because I was confused.
Well, and I had a question for you, which we might get to in Passion for Fashion. But do people in Hawaii wear Hawaiian shirts, or is that just like a
lot of men like who work in office jobs do, especially like they have Aloha Friday where you would wear them, or then just like a lot of office jobs you can just wear them every day. When I worked in an office job here, one of the jobs I worked at, we had Aloha Friday, so it was like a casual Friday, and you could wear your Hawaiian shirt.
Awesome. All right, so he's at this private school. And
yes, he's at the private school. We're introduced to Brett, who could just be described as the absolute worst. He's got the spiky tips. He's like late 90s, and he's just awful. Everything about him's the worst. He sees him, and he's immediately the worst.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something in his eyes that you can just see that he has bad thoughts.
Yes.
It's just nothing good is happening.
Oh, and I want to say they tell them that they're moving east. And he says back east, like Kauai, and Kauai is the westernmost of the Hawaiian island chain.
Okay, so Johnny is not smart.
Johnny's not that great at
but they actually moved to Vermont, which is they refer to New England.
Yes, I don't believe in Vermont.
Do you like maple syrup?
It's fine. No, I don't actually. I don't like it's sticky. I don't like to be sticky.
Okay, but you don't drink coffee. But
right.
I lived with someone from Canada, and she put me on to putting maple syrup in coffee. And I did it on Thanksgiving for the first time a couple years ago. Wow, what a core memory. It's very good. Very good. Okay.
If I ever drink coffee, I'll like it. No, I just like, who's ever been to Vermont? Who's from Vermont? I don't believe
I have been to Vermont. And I know people from Vermont. What
my mother-in-law is from Vermont, actually. And she's great. Shout out to Jan. But yeah, Xenon's here. We're in the classroom.
Okay, and so Xenon's that. Well, okay, we're gonna meet him later.
Kirsten Storm is here. What an amazing name, Kirsten Storm. She is. I looked her up because I was looking everybody up.
Yeah, you have to. You kind of want. Well, okay, go on.
I was just saying, she's still working. She's been doing soap opera acting for like 20 years now.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I feel like a lot of them just kind of stopped, they hit 18, 20 years old, and they were just like, no. Actually, I have a friend who was a child actor. He was in The Little Rascals, and he's a CPA now.
I love that.
Like the most like not exciting. Although you would probably beg to differ. So Xenon's there, and
she lists the Hawaiian Islands. She actually lists it wrong. She doesn't say ni hao, but it's fine.
Yeah. How many islands are there?
There's 8 in the main island chain. 8. There's other smaller ones beyond it, but there's 8 in the main Hawaiian chain. She only lists 7, which is ni hao.
Yeah, so Johnny's kind of obviously desperate to make friends. Doesn't have anybody.
Anyone would be who's moving and joining a new school in what I would presume is the middle of the year.
Yeah, probably. And I mean, he doesn't have anyone to sit with at lunch, but he finds out that private school kids ski.
Yes. Well, first Brett and Brett's crony, who I don't know if he got a name,
I don't know.
Invite him to go skiing. And then they're mean and they push him down the hill.
And it's, again, a falling down the hill, just like Cadet Kelly, right into well, obviously it's not a surf shop.
It's the ski store run by Robbie, who just did not like him from the start, which he did knock over a whole display, so I can
pretty understandable.
Why.
A line that came to mind in this scene was from Toy Story when Woody says, "That wasn't flying, that was falling with style."
Yes, definitely.
Because he definitely was
Definitely
not skiing.
I was gonna
But-
say, based on this scene, I do not think the actor who played Johnny Capahala did his own stunts.
Oh yeah, I actually thought that throughout the movie because there's just way too many technical things.
But
It
it is
just
a perfect, because your whole face is covered skiing and
Oh, yeah.
snowboarding, it's super easy to do body doubles.
Yeah, well, and because at different times, even spoiler alert, when he gets better at snowboarding, they're like going between trees and stuff, which
There are so many montages, skiing montages,
There
snowboarding montages, falling montages.
they're pretty
There were a
awesome.
lot.
And I had another question for you, Kelsey. Have you ever gone sledding?
Sledding, yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
have.
In
All right.
college. In the snow, yes. In college.
18 years
'Cause
old.
there wasn't snow. I grew up in New Orleans.
But you went
there
to
was no
Michigan
snow
fairly
there.
often, right?
Yes, normally in November for hunting season and Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So there's not normally snow on the ground. And then, yeah, in college, we went to college together in Washington, D.C. There was snow there pretty frequently in the winter. Frequently, I felt like, because I was from New Orleans. And so, yes, I went sledding there. So, yeah.
Nice.
I went sledding on cardboard down a hill when I was a
In
child.
college. Oh, as a child.
Yeah, like not on snow, but like on a piece of cardboard, you can go down a hill.
Okay. Not the same.
I've also never skied or snowboarded. Have you ever skied or snowboarded?
Yeah, I've actually gone skiing quite a bit. I tried snowboarding once, just after getting good at skiing. It was so different. I couldn't deal with not being able to move my feet. But interestingly, again, as we've covered in the past, we are both private school grads. And as we learn in the film, private school kids ski, public school kids
snowboard. Yes, that is what we learn. And we learn the mountain is divided down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
One side is for the skiers, one side is for the snowboarders. Never the two shall meet. And also the best runs are on the skiers' side.
Obviously.
In real life, are skiers and snowboarders just on the same hill?
Yeah, of course they're on the same hill.
I don't know.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's a good time.
He gets home from skiing and falling down with the skies. That's what we call the private school kids. And his mom is like, where were you? Like, just how's it going? And he's like, oh yeah, I went skiing after school, because it was the 90s where you just went skiing and you didn't tell your parents where you were going after school.
Yeah, and
skiing
like okay
with it. Right. How did he pay for that stuff in the store?
No idea.
I don't know. And his parents were just like, oh, cool, you went skiing after school. And I was just like, things have changed.
Yeah.
Things have changed since the 90s.
Well, I mean, but what would a decom be if you had to ask your parents before you did anything?
Right.
And if money was an object, like what suddenly we don't have a decom.
So he does get his uniform in. He goes to school the next day. He chooses to wear a Hawaiian shirt instead of the uniform shirt. He gets sent to the principal's office. We learn that the principal is Emily, who is played by Kirsten Storm, who is Xenon, girl of the 21st century. And
it's her mom.
Anyway, it's her dad.
I'm sorry.
Who is doing?
But just to be clear, Xenon is not the principal. Xenon is a fellow student because
And the principal is doing a Christopher Walken impression, if I have ever heard one.
Amazing.
And
so he's pretty critical. Not a nice dude.
Not my favorite guy. So then, yes, on the bus home, he meets Sam. He, being Johnny, meets Sam, some other public school kids. They go by the Urchins. They go to Maple Valley. So there's your syrup for you. Yeah.
So the Urchins, Sam has a really awesome hat.
A really awesome hat.
I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of those ones that has like a bunch of tubes sticking out of it.
Yeah.
But Sam is played by this, and of course I didn't write his name down, but the same guy that played Jet Jackson.
Yes, he is. Jet Jackson also gets his own decom.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be.
That is another theme:
back.
Is ending Disney Channel original shows with a decom. There's a lot.
There are Proud Family, Even Stevens,
Wizards of Waverly Place, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
We can add Lizzie McGuire, although it's not a decom.
I don't know.
but they still ended it with the movie.
But they did. That one was just, I mean, High School Musical 3 was in theaters, so
it was.
they're
we're gonna have to decide what to do with those. So he plays the same actor that played Jet Jackson, and I looked this one up. He died in 2013. Did you come across that?
I did not.
He died by suicide in 2013.
That is so sad.
So that was just kind of a little bit of a
and he was
a shocker.
Yeah.
So but again, this is another one of those tropes where we have a Black best friend.
Yes. And we do. Sam is indeed, he becomes our best friend. He teaches us how to snowboard. He teaches us a lot. I thought he did so great. It was very Fresh Prince of Bel-Air influenced. I felt like his acting style. It felt very that like 90s Fresh Prince type of
very confident
character. Yes, very confident. Kind of, joking. He takes him under his wing. He teaches him to surfboard. No, surfboard. Teaches him to snowboard.
Johnny makes the comment, just like surfing, but with snow. It is not, because again, from my one experience snowboarding, you don't realize. So you look at it and you're like, oh, that looks a lot like a skateboard. And so that was actually a fun fact. We're going to get to Brink, I know eventually, but I was a skateboarder when I was in middle school. And so I was like, oh, snowboarding, skateboarding, like very similar. They're not, and the biggest difference again is that you can't move your feet, and you don't realize how difficult that is, and how just unnatural, because like your balance is totally thrown off. And so I'd imagine it's the same thing with surfing.
Yes,
where you're able to move your feet. And so so that's the line is keep your tips up.
Keep your tips up. Yes, exactly.
Tips up. Because otherwise, if your tips are down, you're just gonna flop right over yourself.
What does that mean? What are your tips?
Oh, like the tip of the
surfboard.
The snowboard. Yeah, because
I didn't know what they meant. I thought it was just an expression.
Because you don't realize it, but you're actually leaning back, like on your back foot as you slide down, and then you use your front foot to like steer.
I understand the physics behind it. I've just never actually done it.
Yeah, it's funny. It like growing up skiing, I always thought that snowboarding was really easy.
It was not.
It is not. And so it's just kind of fun to see this. Also, I mentioned skateboarding, so that's a little bit of a heads up that there is a sequel to this film, to this movie.
There is.
Johnny Capahala back on board. Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna have to do
I don't really remember. We will do that one.
I think that one's skateboarding, isn't it?
Or
like longboarding. Is he in California? I don't know. Well, we'll have to see.
We go back to, there's another school scene. We're talking to Emily, and she in the library, and she's like, we don't snowboard, Johnny. It's very, again, Teen Beach movie with the gangs, the rivalry. She's just like, of course we don't
the
snowboard.
Jets and the Sharks.
Exactly.
The private school kids and the public school kids. Oh, I don't know if this was the same in New Orleans when you were growing up, but like we were very like suspect of the public school kids. I don't know. It wasn't the best.
There are a lot of private schools in New Orleans, so there were enough that we could just be suspect of the other private school kids.
I love it. Yeah, no, we were like jerks. So there
then
we go.
Take Emily snowboarding. She does ask, she is like, what's snowboarding like? And he says, oh, I don't think you could do it, which I thought was mean, but I guess that was how we joke around with our friends in the 90s, because she does go snowboarding in the next scene. She's like incognito. She's not wearing her all the skiers wear these big yellow puffer jackets. They're like a little biker gang, but of skiers. And so she wears a black jacket this time to show that she's not skiing right now. I'm hiding.
Obsessed with the ski patrol. Like for some reason, ski patrol is like the villain.
Is it? Is ski patrol a real thing? Is there like
of course. Oh my gosh,
I'm learning so much today. Well, because here's the thing, we teach Emily to snowboard. Emily falls down the mountain, like off the side. She's hanging off the side. She's
Oh
going to
yeah,
die.
that's right. I have that in my notes.
And
which, by the way, like when you actually go skiing, like they make it very safe. Like there's no falling off a cliff.
They wouldn't just let teenagers just go where they're gonna fall off a cliff randomly. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like runs, there's like poles and markers.
Right. And well, and if you think about a mountain, right, they have to clear trees to make the runs. And so your run is very defined by trees, not by cliffs. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. Okay, so she's hanging on by her fingertips.
Sam leans forward. Yeah, Sam walks to the edge, tells Johnny to stay back. Sam walks to the edge and he says, Emily, we're going to get help. We're going to come get you. The edge falls out and Sam falls down too. He is now also hanging by his fingertips. We are left with only Johnny, who needs to
go and get cell phones, ski patrol.
Because it's 1999. Get ski patrol. And he snowboards very well. He falls. We have kind of a montage of him going down. He falls a couple times, but he gets some mad air. And he does end up snowboarding directly in front of ski patrol. He's like, my friends need help. And ski patrol's on it though. He's like, hop on the back, show me where they are.
Yep.
We go up and ski patrol is like, I hope this rope reaches them, which I was like, it's not what I would have wanted to
Not well equipped. He also needs Johnny's help, which is odd.
Which is, again, like, this is a child. He's supposed to be like, what, like 13, 14. They cannot be any older than 15. None of them drive, which means they can't be any older than 15.
You know, and I think that's an important kind of ambiguity in a lot of the DCOMs is, are they in middle school or are they in high school? And because I remember finding out that Lizzie McGuire was in middle school and being like, what? Like, just my whole life I really thought that she was a high schooler.
Yeah.
But she goes to Rome for her 8th grade graduation.
In Even Stevens at one point, I think at one point in Even Stevens, Ren graduates 8th grade, and I thought Ren was like 18 years old.
It is funny though, going back and watching those now, they seem very young.
One of my original notes in this was, I thought they were much older than this.
Yeah.
I remember being like, these are some wise old high schoolers, because in 1999 this came out, it was like just a little child.
Absolutely.
And so to now realize they are just like, maybe 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah.
Sam's dad, we do rescue both of them. We rescue Emily first. She and Johnny are having a moment, and Sam's like, I'm still down here.
In his awesome hat.
In his awesome hat. So glad we saved that hat. And then Sam's dad picks us up, and Sam's dad is like, you guys got really lucky out there. And I'm like, how did he know about this?
They must have called him.
They must have called him. And then we go home. Johnny's parents are upset because they'd worried he had gotten in trouble. They tell him he has to be really careful. People are placing a lot of blame for something that seems like just a big accident.
Yeah, well, I think that just in general, parents in DCOMs, like they got to get angry at the kids. But interestingly, as kind of like the reaction, his dad says that he can't hang out with Sam anymore.
And then we learn Emily calls her dad from a payphone at the ski slope. So we know that's how her dad found out, which I was like, oh, I love this payphone scene. We learn her dad wasn't happy about it, doesn't want her to snowboard anymore. So basically, so there's blame being placed all around by adults, which again is not parenting I really approve of. No one was really doing anything wrong. Yeah,
I mean, but again, like, I don't know. It's very complicated. But I think the biggest thing is like blaming Sam.
Yes.
Is incorrect. Right?
Agreed.
Like,
absolutely. And I thought Sam's dad handled it the best. And blaming Sam from people who 2 days ago did not realize that their son was even out skiing after school.
Right.
And didn't mind then.
Right.
Probably because he was with the private school kids. There is some amount of that from the adults.
Well, and that's exactly like my reaction is like, okay, so we're blaming the black public school kid for what happened.
Brett does say to Johnny, you're in America now, Hawaii, like speak English. And I was like, oh, so we're just being racist.
That was rough.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like, so Brett's just racist, because I don't know how else to classify that specific line.
Yeah, it's I don't know, like I guess that's kind of like a cool kid thing, right? Is like tribalism, like we've got our own,
Yeah,
we don't need anybody else. That's
exactly.
something that's like very, that people can be very proud of, which is not how things should go.
We
So
hear Pete, who is Johnny's father's, after the conversation with Johnny with both of his parents. Pete says, "I just don't want to end up like him, to end up like my dad." And I was like, Pete just really needs to have some conversations with his dad. Like, Pete and Grandpa
yeah,
really
the
just need to talk
total,
about it.
the dissonance between how everyone sees his father as this hero who, very selflessly saved all these people, and the fact that his son just sees him as like a total deadbeat.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
and
stuff that needs to go on there.
now obviously we don't know anything about Pete's childhood, at least at
Sure.
this point in time. We do see only Grandpa as a just devoted grandfather to Johnny. I mean,
Yeah.
just supporting him. They'd surf together every day. He supported him in this move. Johnny asks to call him Johnny, because he has to use the landline and probably pay long distance to call Grandpa.
Amazing.
Asked to call him, and Johnny's in bed, and the mom comes upstairs after the conversation with the grandfather, and she says, your dad just wants to be the best dad to you that he can. And Johnny is like surprised by this, which is really sad to hear. And I don't think he's alone in that, especially for a kid whose dad works so much.
Yeah, I think there's this disconnection, and did you ever see Breaking Bad?
Yes.
Okay. So right, there's this sense of like, I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing this for my family. And that's the reason why I'm absent, is actually because I love them so much. And it gets really, really messy between like, is it because you love them so much? Is it because you're really proud of what you're doing? Is it because like, what
Yes.
is it that's
And
really
as we
driving
learn
it?
in the finale of Breaking Bad, he finally says to Skylar, he says, "This was for me."
Absolutely.
Which I knew, but that's a great show.
It is a great show. No, but like when he makes that like revelation,
Yes.
right? It's this, everything that you thought that you knew from the first episode. It's like, oh no, he really was doing it for himself. And so I think it's very natural that Johnny just sees his dad as this person who wants to be high achieving, who wants to separate himself from his own father's achievements. But yeah, of course,
and I
he loves
imagine
his family.
that was also, like you said, separate himself from his own father's achievements. I'm sure that was also hard on Pete growing up when your dad is the greatest surfer ever, saved these people's lives. We learned that happened when Pete was just a baby, and you are having to live in the shadow of that. And we learned that he doesn't enjoy surfing. So it's also your dad's big passion is just something that you're not interested in.
Right. Well, and I think even if we look at, the evil private school that he sends kids to, like, obviously that's a very, like, that's the child's perspective, because we know that the parents are likely making great sacrifices, and see themselves as giving their children great educations as a result. But I think it's so funny that that's like the role that private school, that it's always evil. We even see it in Glee. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's very much the trope of like, this isn't my dream dad, it's yours.
Right.
As with the private school, because Pete does
right.
say,
Like, I don't want to be a rich kid. Like, I'm perfectly comfortable.
Yeah. I wish I could have gone to a school like this. And I think Pete probably felt it from his dad to some extent.
Sure.
From Grandpa, of surfing, and surfing wasn't his dream.
Right.
So yeah, there is
absolutely.
And I mean, there are people who actually do that to their kids. So that's also a real trope to some extent.
Well, so then Johnny and Sam decide to run away.
They leave a runaway note on a laptop from 1999 in Microsoft Word, and it was awesome.
And where did they go, Kelsey?
They run away to Hawaii. They get on an Air Force plane. Sam's dad is in the Air Force. I presume he might be in the Army. They get on a military plane. And they sneak on and hide on it. This is terrible security for our military. And they land
pre 9/11
on Oahu, and they are just walking on the beach towards Grandpa's house. How we got from the airplane to the beach, unknown. But
it's amazing. It's
we
absolutely
are there.
amazing.
we see Grandpa, and he welcomes them, with open arms. In the next scene, they're asleep on Grandpa's like living room, and he's on the phone with Dad, and Dad says something like, "Oh, and I bet you just welcomed them." And I'm like, "What did you want him to do, Pete?" I guess put him straight on a plane back.
Yeah. I think I'm very close with my grandfather. And I think if at that age I like showed up at his house, he would be like, "So happy to see you. Do your parents know that you're here?" Which honestly is pretty much what happened in the movie. So yeah. So grandpa's on the phone and
Oh, we skipped the whole fight. There was a fight at one point on the ski slope.
I missed
where
it.
Yeah, they went skiing. There was a fight. Brett totally attacks Johnny, but then everyone blames Johnny, including the headmaster, who tells Johnny he has to pick between the urchins and the skies, and he should pick the right one, which is obviously supposed to be the skies. And that is what spurs the biggest reason for them to leave, is that, and Sam's moving to Iceland.
Sam's moving to Iceland? I totally missed that.
Yeah, Sam's moving to Iceland. He's like, goodness. I'm so sick of being cold. And I'm like,
another kid Iceland. Moving.
Yes, exactly. Because the military's moving his dad to Iceland. So that's those
you
two big things are why they're leaving.
Like, I don't know. I guess as adults now, like, we move and we don't think it's that big of a deal. But like I remember like being a kid and when you found out that like your best friend was moving, especially then when communication was so bad.
Yeah.
Like that was the end of it. And so I guess it makes sense that it's plays such a big role. Because I mean in DComs you're not going to have kids with drugs, you're not going to have anything else that you're not going to have kids get arrested and whatnot. So all right,
we teach Sam to surf in Hawaii with Grandpa's not sending them back. He wants them to decide to go back on his own. Pete's really annoyed about this, but Grandpa's very wise. Okay, I think it's funny that Johnny's original friends from the opening scenes are here, and they're like, "Did you hear the report? Like, was the surf report like on a radio station? I guess." You had to like listen for it, I think, in the morning, awesome. And they'd tell you like where the big waves were on the island.
Yeah, I mean, how else would you find out? Like maybe the newspaper. Right. I don't know.
Now you can just Google it. Right, that's what I was thinking. Was like what I call, because I guess the surf report must have sent people out to different areas, and then they'd call them, and then they'd announce it. And now it's like you can just Google it everywhere, and like the internet can tell you. I just thought that was funny. And so they teach Sam to surf. They have and then we're hanging out by the fire with Grandpa at night, and he tells them, you've got to just ride the waves wherever you are, meaning you have to deal with the ebbs and flows of life. You have to handle the conflict wherever you are, which I thought was a really great conversation. Some advice I got about childbirth was that you should pretend as you get it, because contractions come, right? And then they go. So it is kind of like a wave of contractions as you're in labor. So you should just, when you're in the contraction, like you should imagine that you're a jellyfish in a wave and you're just riding the wave out, and then it'll be like a break between waves, and then there's another wave.
Thank you, Kelsey Tsunami.
Some weird homeopathic birthing I love stuff.
It, brah.
I kind of liked it. I did think about it while I was in labor. Labor, like everyone says, is really tough, and then you have the baby and you're like, oh, I love this little baby though. I was like, horror, like everything was horrible and I was in pain and like vomiting in my hair, and then I get the baby and I'm like, oh, my baby.
And then you did it again.
Behind us.
Amazing.
And then right, exactly. So you do it. And then of course,
Grandpa's very wise.
Yes, after the wave conversation, Sam asks if he can go call his dad, and the boys decide, they should go back, and Grandpa says, "I'm coming too."
Hey. And do we get Dad, Grandpa on a mountain?
We do. Well, we come back. Dad is so annoyed that Grandpa's here again. I'm like, just
you guys need to work on your relationship.
Yes, you two need to talk. And they do have a nice talk. We, after we get there, the next day we're sitting on, or that night, I guess, we're sitting on the porch. Grandpa and Johnny they're talking about the stars. Johnny goes to bed, and Grandpa and Pete have a nice conversation where they talk about, like, Grandpa does say there's things I wish I'd done to be a better father, but I'm glad we never made you get back on a surfboard because it wasn't your passion. And he's like, you need to realize, like, Johnny's passion. And Pete does get some of that. It's a really nice breakthrough in their relationship. And then we see Pete look through an old scrapbook he had of photos of him and his dad when he was younger, fishing and things like that. And that was really nice to see. It was nice to see his dad reflect on that and think about how I'm being the father I wanted, but not the father my son wants or needs right now.
Absolutely.
And we do take Grandpa out surfing. Grandpa wearing Uggs, just wearing Uggs. Amazing. That passion for fashion, that's basically my big note in this, because people are wearing a lot of ski jackets. The yellow ski jackets, they're in a ski gang. Grandpa's wearing Ugg boots.
Amazing.
And I loved it.
He knows what's up.
He does. So we learn Grandpa can surfboard amazingly. I mean, he is snowboard. I'm sorry. We already knew he could surf. Snowboard. He is just catching air. He's ripping it. I guess he'd done it before, was the implication. You don't just start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, or he's just that amazing. Because I do think he was kind of put on that level of, like, almost being like a supernatural.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's got his little
wisdom figure. Yeah.
Which is the thing. So we're snowboarding. We run into the skiers, who are so rude to Grandpa. He's like, oh, Gramps, like, Brett, where are your parents? What is wrong in your life, Brett? Because you did not just come out like this, right? He's just
very rich, private
I'm like, who treats someone's grandfather like this? I would never ever speak to anyone's grandfather like this. And so they decide they're gonna race, and if Johnny wins, everyone can snow anywhere on the mountain. And if Brett wins, it stays the way it is. And then Grandpa throws in his medal, because Brett's like, why would I race? Nothing's going to change. And Grandpa's like, the winner gets this. He is wearing his Tsunami surf medal underneath his snowboard jacket.
I love it.
Just to remind himself who he is. And
I am Johnny Tsunami.
Exactly. And you hear one of the guys be like, whoa, what is that? Like, it's like magic or something. Like, it had been like glowing. And Brett's like, I'm in, I want this medal. So they agree to do a race the next day. Oh, Brett says, we're on the skiing side, no urchins, like, no tattoos. I was like, no tattoos. Now you're classist, Brett. Or just everything about you is terrible. Brett is our first villain, because in, obviously, Cadet Kelly, our main villain, was Jennifer Stone. We see a character arc there. They come to an understanding. Teen Beach Movie's villain was more internal conflict. In our main character, Mac, it was really man versus self, as well as man versus nature, in the fact that we were stuck inside of a movie.
Yeah.
And less man versus man conflict. But here we really have man versus man conflict in Brett, who gets no character arc, just a major jerk the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No notes.
We start our race the next day. We have a talk with Dad that night, where Dad is he's more understanding. He's like, I support you, and they have a lovely heart to heart on the stairs. Dad says he knew about the race tomorrow, and basically that he supports it. He supports Johnny. And then the camera pans to the other side, where Mom and Grandpa are sitting on sofas in the living room, just directly across from where they were having this conversation. I guess Johnny and Dad must have known they were there the whole time, but we as viewers did not know they were listening. Right, exactly. And so, but they're happy. And then we go to the race the next day, and everyone's there. The skiers are there to support Brett. Emily says she's just there. And she apologizes for not talking to him after her dad told her not to. So that was really nice to see from Emily.
Yeah.
All the snowboarders show up in Hawaiian shirts, which I thought was super adorable.
Yes.
And Sam has given Johnny a matching hat to Sam's hat with the tubes. I literally don't know how to describe this hat. It's an amazing hat.
I don't either.
A 10 out of 10, no notes on this hat, man.
There was a point, like, I don't know, where, like, when I would go skiing, people would have helmets that had like a mohawk on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like kind of that same vibe.
Yes. I think it's supposed to be dreadlockish,
Okay, yeah.
looking.
I got it. Yeah,
but
makes
it's
sense.
just like felt tubes. I mean, it looks warm. It works. Sam rocks it. So, during the heart to heart with his dad, Johnny is wearing a Quicksilver sweatshirt, and I was like, honestly, that Quicksilver sweatshirt could, like, you could just wear it today. That could just be in a decom today. That exact sweatshirt,
Amazing.
like, and nothing could have changed. Partially because the '90s are back, and partially because Quicksilver is still a really popular surf.
I was thinking about the
brand.
about the 90s being back. I was looking for like Nike sneakers, and the colors were just like so 90s. Like you've got like a deep purple and like a neon green.
Yeah, it's true.
This?
The '90s are absolutely back. It's super fun, I think. I love fashion. I love changes in fashion. I don't like the micro trends just because it leads to a lot of waste. Like I like to buy clothes I think I'll wear for years to come, especially when I buy, I mean, as an adult, I like to buy like nicer handbags and stuff. And so I really have to look at them and think, am I going to wear this for 10 years? But I guess Johnny could have kept that Quicksilver sweatshirt because I looked at that would have been a good investment. Said I could still wear that today. So we're snowboarding. We are going, all the snowboarders show up. I really messed this up several times, so I'm trying to be careful. In their Hawaiian sweatshirts, grandpa, mom, and dad show up. Pete's even wearing a Hawaiian shirt. So it shows that he has had some character.
Right. He's very supportive now.
I mean, we saw he wasn't at the surfing competition in the beginning because he had to code. So I guess he took some time off. To come supported this unofficial race. We learned that the guy who runs ski shop and the guy who runs the snowboarding shop are brothers, and
they're very different.
They're actually played by the same actor, which I never would have realized. I'm not great at faces. So we do learn that they're brothers. So we start our race. Sam was able to come, even though he's moving to Iceland tomorrow. So he was able to come to the race today. And we start our race. There's another montage of raising. Brett just cheats the entire way, just pushes Johnny down, like hits Johnny. Brett, stop it. Stop being the absolute
like, are you
worst.
Really good? Or do you just cheat?
Right. It was, and Johnny says good luck, but he says the Hawaiian term for good luck, and Brett's like, is that a Hawaiian curse word? And it's like, Brett, just be a nice person.
He's a good kid.
Right. Johnny's just a nice guy, and Brett's a jerk. It reminded me of, so my son likes this Nick Jr. show called Blaze and the Monster Machines, and they do like, they'll be like, this was structural engineering, and they do math. And they'll like teach them what like a wedge is, and they sing songs about pistons and stuff. I learned a lot about engines actually in the show. I didn't know what a piston was. But there is a character in the show named Crusher, and his only like attributes, my least favorite thing about the show, is that he cheats when they race because they're monster machines, they're monster trucks. They also race. He cheats in every race. He'll literally be like, I'm Crusher and I love to cheat. And I just don't really like that as a character. He's one of the main characters. I don't think that really teaches kids not to cheat, like even though every time he gets like thwarted and he loses or he has to learn about friendship and stuff, still in the next episode he cheats again.
But I think you learn like, I don't like that,
right? And you're supposed to,
yeah.
And then you also learn about like hydraulics, or they learn about electricity and stuff like that. But it just reminded me of that, just with the fact that he cheated constantly. Johnny does win the race, so everyone can snowboard or ski anywhere they want on the mountain.
Amazing.
Because these are the decisions that these 12-year-olds get, 13, 14-year-olds get to make.
Integration is here.
Exactly. Grandpa gives Johnny the medal. Emily has these adorable rectangular sunglasses on. So Grandpa gives it to Emily for Emily to put on Johnny, and Pete's like, we're throwing a party and everyone's invited. Which shows, I guess, that he's fun now.
The relationship with Emily is kind of weird, because like she never really like says that she's interested in Johnny
or Brett. She's not in a romantic relationship with Brett. She's not really in a romantic relationship with Johnny, although they do. The movie ends as they dance together. So I guess that implies that she doesn't seem to have any girlfriends. Emily, get some girlfriends. That would be my advice to Emily. Female friendship is so important. This is also our first movie with a male main protagonist.
It is, yep.
So that is probably part of it also.
A little bit of a different dynamic. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We learned, yes, that his mom had like adorable feathered bangs. I was like, should I get little feathered, those like 90s wispy little bangs? I was like, should I do that?
Bangs are never a good idea.
Right. And then I was like, probably not. I should, I don't know. I should maybe sit down for a little bit.
Drink some water.
Yeah, exactly. We get the backstory on the ski shop guy, Robbie, and the surf shop guy, the snowboarding shop guy, Randy. We get backstory in that their parents divorced when they were young. So Randy went to the public school, Maple Valley, and Robbie went to the private school, Sky. And they're like a real life parent trap. And so they never speak. And that's bananas.
It's just kind of nuts that they wrote that whole backstory for like such a minor character.
For no reason, because then they're like, next week we're gonna open, and then our dad died and he split them out in half and half, and we decided to just do it this way so that we never had to talk to each other. But we've decided now, because of Johnny, to put aside all our differences, and next week we're opening like Edison Brother Mountain Fun or whatever they called it, and
way to go, Johnny.
And I was just like, yeah, why did we like put a parent, like I need a movie about their parent trap origin. Because
it could be a good one.
As a parent, if I ever split from my husband, we would not just be like, let's just, you want that one, I'll take this one,
I'll take this one, and just like
anymore.
never the two shall meet.
No, like think about it. How many?
It is an absolutely bonkers premise. I mean, even for Parent Trap, maybe eventually we should do a bonus episode of Parent Trap, because we could rip that one apart.
So great. But it's lovely they're reuniting now again. Thanks, Johnny. Johnny saves the world. We end as Johnny and Emily dance. I would like to say I watched this a lot as a child. The nostalgia factor was definitely high. Like it really was. I have an older brother, so this is one he really liked, one we watched together. And we used to always say to each other, we used to always be like if someone entered a room, would be like, it's Johnny Tsunami, man. And I thought that was a line in this movie.
It's not.
I would have like
maybe it's in the sequel.
Maybe it's in the sequel. I mean, Randy at one point is like, Johnny Tsunami in my store. So that's kind of where it comes from. But we used to say that a lot to each other.
Yeah.
And that was not an actual line.
Yeah, it was the
Mandela effect?
Yeah, maybe. It was interesting to me because, so this was 1999, Cadet Kelly was 2003. The nostalgia factor for me was through the roof compared even to Cadet Kelly. Just because I think that like end of the 90s, and I mean, maybe it was like the technology, because Cadet Kelly had a cell phone, it was a flip phone, but she had a cell phone. So like the difference in those 4 years, Johnny Tsunami was just like very much like sitting in my living room. Yeah.
Just the airport scene. They walk outside to the car, which is parked right out front of the airport.
Right.
That's not a scene they could ever possibly do anymore, because like you already mentioned, this was a pre 9/11 world. You could just park right outside of the airport, just walk directly out. Not a big deal. But you were sitting in your living room.
Yeah, just sitting on the floor, watching Johnny Tsunami, maybe having a Capri Sun. I don't know. It just, I feel like I watched this movie with my mom for some reason. like I feel like this was like like that time when like kids just really didn't watch television by themselves that much.
Well, that's the thing about this is it felt like it was geared to be more of a family movie than a movie. Like when we watched Teen Beach Movie, it did not really feel like it was geared towards any adults, but there was adult conflict in this, and it did feel like it was written more as a family movie. You're supposed to like sit with your family and watch it, whereas I do think now there is television that's much more geared towards just leave your kids alone,
right?
Which is, like I just said, the show my son watches, like no adults I think are really getting enjoyment out of Blaze in the Monkey.
Well, and that was, I remember my dad having that criticism when I was watching like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. He was just like, I hate the show, it's not funny. And like I was like, this is hilarious, what are you talking about? Whereas like I can see like my dad watching Johnny Tsunami and being like, the backstory of the brothers was completely unnecessary and absolutely hilarious. Like,
right.
You know, so yeah, like I do think that's an important difference. You know, whether or not they put layers in for adults or whether it was really only and entirely intended for children. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's rate it. I can go first this time, I believe.
Sure. How many Disney Wand IDs are you going to give this one, Kelsey?
I'm Kelsey Bowman, and you're watching Go Big or Go Decom. And I'm drawing Mickey Mouse. Oh my gosh, that is the noise. Anywho, honestly, I would give it 8. This is my highest rating. 8. Well, what are we rating it on? Like, am I comparing it to like an Academy Award winning movie or just other DComs?
Just other DComs.
Yeah, I would give it. I mean, so far, I think I rated Cadet Kelly 7, and then I rated Teen Beach Movie 6.5. I would give it an 8. I loved that there was adult conflict in it. I thought it was funny, like the fish out of water-ness of Johnny. I do wish Brett had some sort of a character arc. He was so one-dimensional. And I guess I wish that Emily had some female friends.
Yeah.
But didn't really pass the Bechdel test, this movie. But
oh no, it didn't at all.
Not at all.
Yeah. And just for listeners who don't know what the Bechdel test is, it's whether or not there's a conversation between two women that is not about a man.
And both the women are named characters.
And both the women are named characters, and that did not take place at all in this movie.
I don't think there's a conversation between two women.
I don't think there is either.
So that's a bummer, but I'm still going to stick with an 8. And then I'm sure the nostalgia factor was a big part of it. I really enjoy, like I said, this is one that I have memories of watching with both of my siblings. And since I'm the youngest of 3, that ends pretty soon after that because my siblings were older.
Nice.
So yeah. What about you?
I'm actually going to give this one a 6.5. So a little bit lower. I don't know, you know, there were good character arcs. There were good aspects. I gotta be honest, like as far as holding my attention, I felt like a goldfish. And just as with a lot of these movies. So yeah, so I rated Teen Beach Movie, I think, the highest of the ones that we've watched so far. And part of that is probably because I just hadn't seen it before. But for this one, yeah, I don't know. It obviously 6.5 is good, right? It's good, but it just was not my favorite.
I also had felt like watching this, like, oh, I would rewatch this like with my son. And I guess I hadn't felt that way about the other two. I think because he would enjoy, I think, you know, there is a male lead, and I think my son would really enjoy the surfing aspects of it because we do live in Hawaii, so we like sea surfers. He like knows what a surfboard is, so that probably also influenced my my judgment. But that's okay because it's my judgment. That's why.
Absolutely, I love it. And Kelsey, what are we watching next episode?
Next week is very exciting. We are watching The Naughty Nine, which is a brand new DCOM that is premiering from us recording this. By the time this episode releases, it will have released. But
so it's Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right?
Before Thanksgiving, it drops on Disney Channel, making it a bona fide DCOM, and it will be on Disney Plus the next day, on Thanksgiving Day. So that's exciting. We get to watch the brand new Christmas, and it's Christmas. We're going to get in the Christmas spirit for it. The Naughty Nine. It's a heist movie. Some children who are supposed to be on the naughty list decide they're going to go take their presents back from Santa.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I would just say, we kind of have done a lot of spoiler alerts, we have not done spoiler alerts for these episodes because we've mainly been watching movies that are several years old.
Johnny Tsunami is, yes, 24 years old. So.
24 years old. Even Teen Beach Movie was 10.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to, have any spoilers, watch the movie ahead of time. Absolutely.
We'll say it at the beginning of the next episode again, but yeah, this one is brand new, less than 5 years old. So we will say spoiler alert for the next episode, but available on Disney Plus everywhere internationally on Thanksgiving Day.
It's going to be awesome.
November 24th.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. You can find us on orgodecom.substack.com, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also watch us on YouTube. All right. Anything else?
That's it from me. Thanks for listening. And this is Go Big or Go Decom.
Yay.